Hello and welcome to the AVForums podcast for Monday the 22nd of August, and joining me on this edition are assistant editor Steve Withers.
Oh, so that's what an invisible barrier looks like.
News editor Mark Hodgkinson.
Dead? No excuse for laying off work.
And audio reviewer Ed Selley.
Little things hitting each other, that's what I like.
I noticed you went with the illness and work theme there, Mark. There you are.
That was the first quote down that was less than 3 lines.
Right, okay, we have to start on a sad note. Really sad note. One of the original cast members from Star Wars, Kenny Baker, who was the man who was never seen on screen because he was inside R2-D2 wiggling him around and stuff, sadly passed on at the age of 83 after a long illness. Good innings, Steve, and especially considering his size and health issues that go with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was obviously a man of restricted height, hence all the work he got on film.
Just like you.
So I think 80, is it 81 or 83? It's a pretty good innings. I'd be pretty happy with that kind of. I mean, that's well above the average these days. So not bad. Yeah, I mean, obviously he's best known for playing R2-D2. Although you have to wonder how much of his performance was in the film, because a lot of the time R2 is running around on remote control. So I guess if you see R2 shaking around or its head moving about, that's Kenny. But yeah, I think it worked because they didn't manage to imbue R2 with quite a lot of character for what is essentially, a dustbin. And I guess we can put a lot of that down to having a human being inside of it quite a lot of the time. Also, of course, if you're familiar with his work, he's one of the dwarves in Time Bandits, and he's got a fairly major role in that film, along with his partner Jack Purvis. They were the Minitones together as a double act prior to the Star Wars, and also David Rappaport, who sadly committed suicide a few years ago. So, yeah, I mean, Kenny, he's part of film history. He's going to be forever part of film history as R2-D2, and also he's in one of my favourite films, Time Bandits. So very sad to hear about his passing. Okay,
so moving on, current competitions. Ed, tell us all about them.
Right then, you can, as of this moment, win Terry Pratchett's The Colour of Magic on Blu-ray, which is open to all members, but you only have 2 days after this podcast goes out, so get a wiggle on that. And then you've got the... Ooh, this is an exciting word. Stelgis Audio Mega Giveaway. There's an amplifier for first prize, active speakers with Bluetooth for second prize, and a different pair of active speakers with Bluetooth for the third prize. And they come in its exciting choice of 7 colours. That's open to everyone until the 30th of September. And that actually looks pretty good by all accounts. So that's all good. And before you ask me, I'm going to head you off at the pass. There are previous competition winners. Would you like to know who they are?
I suppose.
Go on then. Right, okay. Chris Ross, 78, won the Metallica Through the Never Blu-ray. So he will get to watch that as many times as he likes, Phil, unlike you. And N. Heather, who actually, is someone I actually know off the forums. He won Bridge on the River Kwai, I should say, on Blu-ray. So congratulations to them. Well done, chaps. People do win. Keep trying, guys.
I'm glad it's not just me that keeps saying Bridge over the River Kwai.
Troubled waters.
I always get that wrong. I don't know why.
That famous album by Simon and Garfunkel.
I always get it wrong as well. It doesn't seem to make much sense on the River Kwai. It'd be floating in that case.
No, but it is the correct term. But we're just inept.
And the and the amplifier and speakers, we're going to have. We will eventually have reviews of those, won't we, Ed?
That's the plan. Yes. I've come back from my exciting holiday. With a stinking cold and a very long...
If you will go to Ireland, what do you expect?
If I will go to Ireland.
Yeah, I mean, you got Ireland in August and you had to put the fire on.
Yeah, a peat fire as well, because it's a mud-based economy. I've got a stinking cold, and I've got a list as long as my proverbial arm of things to get squared away and sorted. But the good news is that I'm working through it, and we have got some cracking review products coming up, including, as I say, we'll be having a look at these items as well.
And how do you pronounce that again?
I don't know. I figure that'll be something I'll get squared away as and when I actually start looking at the product.
Ring up and ask them, how do you pronounce your name exactly?
Right, moving on. Hardware news time, and Sony TV owners are having problems with SkyQ UHD service. Tell us about this, Mark.
You've kind of, it's not a big story, this one. It's just kind of emerged through forums like our own. Numerous owners of 2014 and 2015 Sony Ultra HD TVs. So that's the X83, X85, 9 with a suffix of B or C with the product codes. They're reporting occasional judder or stutter or kind of like a screen tearing effect when the video output's on 2160p. It can be fixed by quickly switching inputs with the remote or powering the TV on or off, and the same with the SkyQ Silver Box, and that seems to fix it. Sony
Temporarily, I think.
Temporarily, yeah, maybe for a couple of hours. I mean, it's not as though people are up in arms about it. It's more of a nuisance thing. It's not constantly happening to the images. Sony have acknowledged it on their European web page help page, and say they're working on a fix. There's no date for it, but it's just the joys of being an early adopter, I guess. And
it's not a major problem. It's not. Obviously, the TVs can accept. They're outputting 50p. I take it on
2160. Yeah, 50p.
Yeah. So they can handle it. It's just obviously there's some software bug in there, but I do think it's an indicator of what we might have ahead of us as Ultra HD rolls out and becomes more. There's more sources available, and then we're going to find that people perhaps with older pre-2016 Ultra HD TVs might find issues because obviously we've already talked about things like not supporting HDCP 2.2 or not having HDMI 2.0A, for example, those kind of things. And I guess there's always, as you say, there's always a danger when you're an early adopter that you'll find that your TV doesn't quite do everything you thought it would, because things have changed and things are changing so fast at the moment.
Yeah, I think you've summed it up in a nutshell there, to be honest.
So the lesson, kids, is never try.
Never do anything first. Wait till someone else has found out what happens.
Presumably, on account of the fact it's working with everyone else, there's no culpability on the part of Sky. It's not,
So as Sony have acknowledged it and said they're working on the fix, then you would think the blame's at their door.
Seems to be a Sony issue rather than anything to do with Sky. I mean, I don't know. Has anyone got Sky Q UHD?
No. I have neither the television nor the will for that sort of thing.
nor the budget.
Nor the budget, no.
Yeah, people that I do know that have it seems to have rolled out very well so far. I mean, it's only been 2 weeks now, but I haven't heard any major complaints about. There's obviously the odd little niggle here and there, but generally, I think the way it's working is they're broadcasting the football in Ultra HD and you're downloading the films.
Right, so Sony obviously going to update. Has this update gone out yet, Mark, or is it in the process?
No, it's in the pipeline for sure. No apparent date has been given yet. I've stuck up a news story and I've bookmarked. I've stuck the page on the Sony website. You need to bookmark to keep an eye on it. But yeah, I can't imagine it'll take them too long. He says.
Okay. Moving on to a TV which we did the exclusive review of way back at the beginning of the year on the 65-inch version. We've had it back in now after we've seen certainly we've seen almost all of the flagship TVs from all the big manufacturers this year, Steve. So this TV's now come back in. It's the DX902 from Panasonic, this time in a 58-inch screen size. And I guess we had... it's nice to have another second look at something like this after we've seen the competition because we saw it so early.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we saw this at the end of January. So at that point, we hadn't even, Ultra HD Blu-ray hadn't been launched yet. There was no HDR content really to test it with. And obviously nothing else had been launched, so we didn't know anything about pricing. So it was great to get it early, but clearly the downside to that is that you don't have any point of reference at that point. Having seen just about everything else now, coming back to it again in the 58-inch version, giving me a chance to really test it in terms of HDR. I've got to say, it is absolutely cracking TV. I mean, first of all, there's been a significant price decrease between us reviewing 65-inch and us reviewing the 58-inch. You can now get the 58-inch for £1,999. So, for a 58-inch Ultra HD 4K TV with HDR and everything and all the bells and whistles, Ultra HD Premium certified, THX certified, full 1,000 nits, over 1,000 nits of peak brightness, for less than £2,000, I think is absolutely cracking value. And it isn't just good value in terms of its price. I think it delivers in terms of performance. As you'd expect with a Panasonic, the color accuracy on this TV is just superb. I mean, easily, they're the most accurate TVs, and certainly this model in particular is the most accurate TV in terms of color performance, both with SDR and HDR of any of the TVs we measured this year, or I've measured this year. So that's one factor. In terms of peak brightness, as I say, it measures 1,270 nits of peak brightness on 10% window, so it's got the brightness. It tracks the EOT FPQ precisely. The HDR performance is excellent. The only area really where I would say perhaps the the DX902 isn't quite as good as, say, for example, the Samsung KS9500 is that the Samsung's implementation of their local dimming is really, really good. And definitely that's, if anything, the slight weakness in the DX902 is that Panasonic's local dimming system isn't as good. It's definitely the best local dimming of any of their TVs in the DX902. It's got the 512 zones, it's got the honeycomb structure. And it is good, but I just think that Samsung seems to have the edge. Even though they're using less zones, they seem to have the edge in terms of the way they implement their algorithms on their TVs. So that, and also Samsung are the only TVs that actually can tone map 4000 nit content down to the panel's native brightness, which I can test quite easily just by using a specific scene from the Pan Ultra HD Blu-ray, which was done at 4000 nits, and you can quickly see if a TV doesn't handle a thing, whereas a sun setting behind a mountain. And I like all the other TVs. The Panasonic doesn't. It can map 1000 nits fine, but it's not capable of properly. It's not like it's a mistake or an error. It's just the way that the manufacturer, in this case Panasonic, have implemented their tone mapping. Because the thing about HDR10, obviously, is open source. There's no set standards for how you implement it on your specific TV, and different manufacturers are taking different approaches. And Panasonic say that they've taken the approach of tracking the EOTF as closely as possible, all the way up to 1000. Which means they can map that precisely, but perhaps not quite so precisely when it's 4000 nits, whereas it looks like Samsung are allowing for a rolling off slightly earlier in order to actually give them a bit more headroom to map that 4000 nit content. There isn't a lot of 4000 nit content, but there is some out there, so that's one difference. But otherwise, though, I think, any other slight weakness with these panels is that their off-axis performance is pretty weak. So if you're sitting straight on, that's great. Once you start moving off-axis, you lose the contrast, and blooming becomes more obvious on the backlight with the local dimming.
Yeah, so no good if you've got friends, one of these.
Yeah, if it's just you, perfect. But if you've got friends, it's a bit of an issue. But overall, the native black levels are excellent. Also, VA panel, of course, it measures 0.02 CDM squared. So put it on min, and you're going to get really nice black levels on the local dimming. You've got a lovely, accurate picture, great processing. It is a really solid TV. I'd say of the TVs I've seen so far this year, which is pretty much all of them now, the best SDR picture is the LG OLED. The best HDR picture is the Samsung KS9500. But the DX902 makes a great all-rounder. Does really good SDR, really good HDR, and it's really competitively priced at 2,000 quid. So, no question, overall, it definitely is a worthy winner of a Best Buy badge.
That price is interesting. Obviously, I can remember not that long ago we were talking about whether TV manufacturers would use 4K as just a means of trying desperately to reintroduce some margin back into television production. It would look very much like the answer to that is a resounding no, based on how we've seen pricing readjust and what you're getting at the various price points.
I just think it's such a cutthroat market, Ed,
that they will drive each other into extinction.
Yeah, basically. Basically. So unless you're going uber high end and can afford to sit and just sell 1 or 2 TVs a month, and take over, they've got to shift the stock, basically.
Yeah.
To be honest, manufacturers have tried to price higher. Certainly, I can think of the Panasonic AX902. You remember that one? That was priced very toppy. Came out late into the year, got slaughtered. The following year, Samsung tried to price quite high with the JS9500. Again, got slaughtered. I think they've learned the lesson. Basically, if you come in toppy, you get undercut and you don't get the sales.
Unless you're a Bang & Olufsen or a or a Lorva or something like that. Where
what was that TV that you did the news story for, Mark? Didn't even have HDR and it was $8 grand. Wasn't it?
Yeah, it's about $8 grand. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, boys.
Yeah, but that's a completely different market. That is the type of market who go and buy a Rolls Royce or that's that type of market where. They're not really interested in HDR and the latest technology. It's all about design, fit, finish, and being seen to be and that's not where Panasonic are or Samsung or anybody else. So it's a really cutthroat business. The thing that you really got to look at again is that out with the UK and Japan and some of Europe at the minute, Panasonic do not sell any TVs in America. No. That market is now gone. Now that used to be a massive market, and it's just driven down to the bottom. The last time we were in a Best Buy and a Fry's in the States, It was all Samsung and LG and one row of Sony, and there was no sign of anybody else. I mean, it used to be Sharp, no sign of Sharp anymore. They used to have the big screen TVs over there. I mean, like really big screen TVs and really cheap over there. They'd all gone. Panasonic had all gone.
Vizio, the biggest brand now in America.
Yeah, but even Vizio, I think I saw two.
Yeah, we only saw the two
on the
Dolby
shelf.
Vision TVs. I think they had up, didn't they? That was it.
Yeah, so it's a real cutthroat market, and usually what happens in the States is then replicated in most capitalist markets. So, if I was the likes of certainly Panasonic and Sony, where you no longer have any control over the manufacture of the panels, it could get even more cutthroat.
Well, you've already seen, particularly with Sony, but to a certain degree with Panasonic, they've also cut down their range, haven't they? There are a lot less TVs in the range now than there was before.
And I don't want to be disrespectful to Panasonic, but this year's TVs, apart from the DX902 and perhaps the DX802, they haven't been very good TVs.
I wouldn't even say the DX802 was that good. Disappointing for its price point. All design and no performance. The DX902 is an absolutely cracking TV, no question about it. They've really poured all the technology and design and effort into that TV, but I do think the lower tier stuff is kind of what it is. It's mid to low priced models and with performance to match. Certainly, when you compare it to Samsung's current lineup of the KS range, which goes from the 7000 up to the 9500, flat and curved, different screen sizes, they've all been stellar performers in terms of particularly HDR, but also SDR as well. And that's before you even look at the cheaper Samsung range of the KU range that goes below that. But this is their SU HD range, if you like. And they've been very strong this year. Whereas I think Panasonic, whilst the DX902 is really, really good, and I love the TV, I think it's a cracking value. I think the rest of their range has left a lot to be desired.
The rest of the range built a price point, definitely.
Well, that's what's going on.
That's the disappointing thing. That's the thing that really stands out, because even looking at Sony, okay, they've only really kept it to two big TVs this year, but both have been really stellar performers as we'd expect them to be. Philips stuff coming through, which is really good quality as well, Steve. So
also very competitively priced. They are certainly targeting a competitive price point, looking at some of the prices I've seen, and obviously they've this year finally much broader range of retailers available, so hopefully you'll be able to buy one for a change. And
we're being told, certainly in terms of IFA, no news, big news AV wise from Panasonic as well. So you got to start thinking, well, where are they going with things? Because other than the 902, it's been a pretty lackluster year.
They're going smart home. That's where they're going. All getting their white goods in there and all the rest of it. IFA will be a bit of smart home fest for Panasonic, no doubt. Their business has obviously shifted away from TVs in the last few years. It's not, they make more money on the white goods and that kind of thing, don't they? And they can integrate the whole lot with their smart home project that they've been talking about for the last 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I do agree with Mark. I mean, when you go to, you've seen it, guys, as well. The Panasonic IFA stand. It's like, have a look at our kitchens. There are some tellies in the corner. It's a, they have fingers in many pies, so to speak. And it just could be that, they're just going where there's money and margin.
I think the problem with IFA, and let's move on to IFA because it is up in 2 weeks. Steve's going to pop across and have a look at what's going on. The problem with IFA is that it's always been more of a white goods show rather than the AV side. However, they tried to change it maybe about 2 or 3 years ago, and we thought it was really going to kick on from there. Where Samsung did a few big launches. They spent a lot of money building the Cube, which was a new addition to the Messe in Berlin. And it looked like IFA was really going to push on and be a big worldwide show. Now, it is a big show, but it's very Eurocentric. It's very white goods based. It's very smart home based. Hi-Fi just doesn't figure at all, Ed. I mean, they go along, but there's nothing major ever launched there.
But that's in Hi-Fi does at least have the Get Out that
that's the Munich show.
Munich was only a couple of months previously, and everyone goes absolutely no holds barred for that.
Yeah.
So, but in an AV sense, no, there's no comparative point of European activity.
No, and I can only think of one or maybe two big TVs that have been actually launched at the IFA show. Last year it was the 952 from Panasonic, the big OLED screen, because that was not going to be available in the US, so they launched it at IFA. But I'm really racking my brain trying to think over previous
It was
years.
Panasonic, wasn't it?
Before they did the AX902 with
The AX902, yeah.
2.0 inputs.
With the 2.0 inputs, yeah. So apart from that, it's not really been that big a show. So really, should we really be putting that much into the IFA show? Because really, it's the wrong time of year to be launching product. It's Q3, Q4, where you would hope that product was ready to go Q1 for the end of the year for the big sales. Plus, you're getting to the end of the year, so you're getting Black Friday, you're getting a lot of discounting and all the rest of it. Do you really want to be putting new product into the market Q3, Q4, where there's so much discounting going on for the Christmas rush? It just seems to be the wrong time of the year.
It is definitely a very inconvenient time to have a show when you've got CES around the corner, basically. And that's obviously when all the big stuff's going to be launched and the roadmaps are going to be laid out for next year. The only thing I can think of, there's the occasional TV announcement. So we know this year's show, because it got sort of accidentally slipped to us back in, I think it was March or February. We know that Philips are planning to launch a new TV at this year's show, an OLED. But otherwise, it tends to be maybe at IFA or alternatively at CEDIO in the US, which is only a couple of weeks later. We tend to get the projector announcements that they get announced at this time of year, don't they? For this is the normal time for projectors to be announced. And we are expecting, we definitely know we're going to be getting our first look at the new JVC native 4K laser projector. That's going to be launched at the show, and then we'll be getting a demo of that, so that's good news. Sony usually have a history of announcing any of their new native 4K projectors at the show, so hopefully we'll get some news from Sony.
I think it's a safe bet to say at least 2 new models. Yeah.
I think that's a safe bet. So we'll be getting new stuff from Sony and JVC announced at the show. So that's interesting if you're into projectors.
Plus there's Epson.
There's one OLED TV. And there's Epson as well. They've already announced their some of their projectors, but they might have other stuff up their sleeve. There's been rumours of other things, so we could see something new from Epson. So in a sense of from the projector side of things, definitely IFA could be very interesting this year because there's a lot going on in terms of projector technology, a lot happening in terms of native 4K projectors coming through other than from Sony, and also laser light sources being used more predominantly, which is I think great news for anyone who's a fan of projectors.
Of course, Ed, the other big thing here is that looking at these big shows now, are they still relevant from a product launch point of view where you want to get your buyers and your press in to see your product and you're fighting with everybody else? Do you think it shows like IFA, CES is so established that it's going to continue no matter what, but shows like IFA could start to maybe suffer when it comes to that kind of thing because manufacturers are maybe thinking, well, we could hold our own events like Microsoft and Apple do, and then we've got the journalists and the buyers all to ourselves. No,
absolutely. As you say, you've got, from a hi-fi perspective, you've got CES, you've got Munich, and if you're, really stratospheric high-end, you've got Rocky Mountain, where you accept the costs of turning up because they're, generally speaking, the press in its entirety will be there. You get to cover a lot of ground. Otherwise, no. All arguments for launching something, especially if it's seriously important to you, point to doing your own dedicated launch, and maybe not on the scale of what you're talking about there with Apple worldwide developers and things like that. But if we think back to a good example that stands out was when Chord Electronics launched the Mojo. They by the standards of a small UK company, it was a big deal. Taking up the restaurant on the Shard, pulling in pretty much every sort of. They covered a huge amount of publications there, and it was a controlled environment where they were the focus of attention. We didn't just wander off and go and look at something else, and it made perfect sense, and they achieved very good results out of that. So just asking people to turn up over and over again to lots and lots of different shows, and it's not immediately clear whether there's going to be the people there to actually make a note of your efforts, and it's diluted amongst hundreds of other companies, especially in the case of IFA where it's diluted amongst messages that have absolutely nothing to do with your specific category. It's a big ask, and it would appear that fundamentally they're responding to the ask by saying no.
I guess the only other big difference with IFA is that it is a public show, and I think it's the only major show of the year anywhere worldwide where it is actually open to the public for 5 or 6 days.
What was a pity.
Which it can be a challenge. I mean, myself and Steve have over the years tried to video and stuff on public days and people walking in front of cameras and knocking tripods over and so on. A really frustrating experience. But I guess the uniqueness of IFA is that it is open to the public. So I suppose, covering everything from white goods to AV, it's more relevant when it's a public audience, and they really don't have to push the new tech, because every time, one of the complaints every time for me was that, well, that was just like CES 8 months ago, and normally that usually is it, because you're in the same product year, the product cycle. So like we say, I mean, you're not going to launch new kit at a point where the market's starting to discount for the new stuff coming in January, February, March, etc. the following year. So it's an interesting show. Steve's going to go along. We will have some coverage. If any big news breaks, you will find it on AVForums. Of course, we'll also look at anything major in depth, and Steve will get hands on and eyes on, certainly with some of the big major products that we expect to see there, mainly projector-wise. It's always an exciting time of the year. And of course, just like TV, projectors are in flux, but projectors take a little bit longer because, like we say, it's like 1% of the display market. It takes a little bit longer for development costs and so on. But interesting to see that at least the higher end machines are coming in with the new technology for HDR, 4K native and so on, so laser projection. So looking forward to that. Let's move things on. Ed, what are people actually using as an audio source equipment these days?
Well, Phil, this is where it gets complicated, because I'm increasingly unsure that I know the answer to that. This little point in the podcast came about as a result of, earlier in the week, I was at a UK hi-fi dealer. I'm not going to mention who they are, because fundamentally it's not important to this as a discussion point, and they're not courting publicity. But he was a really switched on guy, a very clever product portfolio, covered a lot of price points. And he, was acutely aware of the same sort of things that we've been going on about in sound advice and other areas, that you don't necessarily have to have a conventional looking sort of audio system anymore. And within the remit of his product portfolio, he'd been making arrangements to deal with different products and having having a means of using phones and tablets and computers and all sorts of other things to work into, otherwise very, very high quality audio systems. And what he found was a bit odd is that when people were coming in, and not just, boring old reactionaries like, myself and 40 somethings, even when you had students from the nearby university coming in, by and large, if they were going to spend out with him, they were still buying, if you like, that conventional audio systems. Don't get me wrong, they weren't fronted by CD players. He does a lot of streaming systems from brands that are good at streaming, and they were making a beeline for that. But they were still fundamentally buying conventional audio components in the whole chain of equipment to act as their audio system. I mean, they would be prepared to use their phone as a control interface, but not actually as a piece of source equipment or transmission equipment. And it's like, it's got me thinking, and it's basically me asking, listeners, presumably after, you're keeping an eye on the industry, and so to speak, you're aware of the possibilities of what you can do with modern bits of technology. Are you still looking at it and just going meh, and keeping with a conventional, conventional audio sources?
Maybe it's a psychological thing, Ed. Maybe it's a case of how can a phone possibly sound any good as a source?
Yeah, I mean, but it's not just that, Phil. I mean, phones, I grant you, there's going to be a bit of resistance to that, and there will also be people going, well, yeah, okay, it might work with the phone I've got now, but these things change all the time. Is it going to keep working? And I can sort of get the resistance to that. But you would have, one thing that students habitually travel off to university with is a computer, and they're by and large, they're not necessarily using them as an immediate and essentially already cost sunk audio source. That really came as a surprise. USB DACs and stuff like that just aren't getting as much traction as you might sort of assume that they would, given that they generate excellent performance from something that you already own. And also, if you're using services like Tidal and the like, have access to an unlimited supply of CD quality music.
I mean, obviously, you're talking to a hi-fi dealer there. I'm assuming that he still wants people coming through his doors, and that the people coming through his doors are going to have the preconception that they need to buy a hi-fi.
Well, yes, although they don't seem to have any problem with other sort of developments that we've seen within the industry, the move to network streaming, digital preamps, interactive speakers, things like that. All those things are doing quite well. But broadly speaking, the role of source equipment is still being fulfilled by named hi-fi brands rather than making use of technology available to them elsewhere. And I mean, where this also has a sort of point of interest is that in the US, the Mac and DAC route, as it's euphemistically referred to, that seems to be a very, very prevalent way of running audio systems from the very cost-effective levels all the way up to the very high end. Whereas in Europe, we just seem to be keener on having a sort of all hi-fi fronted setup. And I can't get on my high horse here. I have exactly that. I have a dedicated network streamer from a hi-fi brand, and there's other ones in the house just in case I need more of them. But it's a bit of a curiosity. I mean, the other thing that was heartening is that he is flogging turntables as fast as he possibly can. It's ridiculous. And the figure that he was getting, Riga, and we recently reviewed the Planer 3, are at the moment manufacturing upwards of 4,000 turntables a month, which is not bad for a small company in Essex.
Yeah,
So,
it surprised me. I mean,
bananas.
obviously, as part of my role, I'd have to go through and check where traffic is going and what people are looking at and what people are interested in terms of their coverage. And I've been really surprised with the turntable numbers. I mean, I think the top 5 turntables, they're all over about 18,000 views for the reviews, which, when you think about a turntable, that's just astonishing in terms of numbers.
Yes. And it does. I mean, as I say, we are. Sorry, I've just slapped my own microphone there. We are undoubtedly due a calm down at some point on this. But beyond, there will be people who step back and say it was a fad, sort of. But we do appear to have gathered a whole set of new enthusiasts for the medium. And I think for as long as everything else that we're dealing with the partial exception of 4K Blu-ray, is non-physical, intangible, and I don't have any particular issues with pride of ownership, but I'm aware that pride of ownership plays a big role in these things. There is I have to say, vinyl has very, very little that competes with it for that sort of thing. So if you like, it's a fixed point of appealing to things beyond audio that nothing else really is at the moment. I mean, obviously, with Steve buying every single 4K Blu-ray and Atmos Blu-ray going, I dare say that you have. I mean, do you shelve them in a display sense, Steve, or are they
Yes,
just
I do.
Right, I figured that would be the case. So yeah,
He strokes them every night.
Well, whatever blows your frock up. But otherwise, my Blu-rays live in a cupboard next to the vacuum cleaner. It's not it's not something I get that excited about. But yeah, I mean, equally, I've got a big shelf of records in the front room because I don't want to go into the Hoover cupboard
Well,
to
you
get
see,
records.
I'm assuming that Steve is like me in terms of the way he's designed his room, that the racks holding the Blu-rays and so on are either side of the surround speakers, Steve, to create a diffusive effect.
They are basically.
Funny old thing. So yeah, it's odd, but yeah, I mean, this is an open question to people listening to the podcast, and please feel free to bore your friends and family with it. You're aware that you can do all these clever things involving technology you already own? Have you just looked at it and gone, yeah, that's great, but I don't want to do that? Or is it something that you're just limbering up for? You want to see that it sticks and that it delivers on the promises, and you'll take it from there.
And it's certainly something we can look at. Fucking hell, sorry, bus going
Tractor.
past. Yeah. Just let it get out of the way. There's 2 of them.
Well, they're buses. Do you know, I saw a tractor with a flat tire. on Wednesday evening. It's the first time I've ever seen that. I don't know how you get a puncture in a tractor, but he'd found a way.
Yeah, those wheels can crush.
Yeah, I don't know what he'd done.
One of the university's biggest mysteries. There you go, Ed. That's.
So if you do own a tractor,
it'd have to be a bloody big nail to get through one of them.
well, this is
tires.
what I was thinking, but he was there, stood next to it, going, and obviously it's not like you can whip the jack
probably
out
sitting
of the
there
boot, is it?
How the hell did that happen? That's what he was probably
Well, do they know? Use flammable liquid, spray it all around, and then set fire to it? And when they set fire to it,
No, that's only if it actually pulls off the rim. I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
That's what the Icelandic guys do, and it's unbelievably clever. Yeah, they fill it with butane and then it expands and pops back on. This was still firmly on the rim. It was just flat at the bottom. Like, I just wondered what on earth he'd done.
Who knows? Anyway, getting back on to the subject in hand. So we could possibly be updating our sound advice set now that you've thought about this and come up with what seemingly seems to be.
There's more things to be done with sound advice, and further to a discussion that we had last week, we are also going to be talking about the latest addition to the ranks of stereo formats. We'll be talking about MQA and what that means for us, and whether we need to sit up and start paying attention to it. So yeah, we've got still lots to cover in sound advice. Still, popping them out one a month, and we'll keep going from there.
And the article on punctures on tractors will be.
Well, that will have to wait. I will have to do more research on punctures
Okay.
on tractors and take it from there. I dare say YouTube will. There'll probably be a YouTube tractor puncture compilation video that I will have a whale of a time with.
YouTube is the answer to everything. It has the answer to any of the world's problems. It's on YouTube. Somebody will have done a vlog somewhere on it.
If you have any level of mechanical sympathy, the one that you have to watch through gaps in your fingers, there's 2 compilation videos of engines blowing up under dyno testing, and it's like, oh my god, that's horrendous. But it's compelling viewing. It's something that I couldn't look away from.
Yeah, I quite like the fail ones as well, where it's usually Americans, and I'm not stereotyping here. Watch the video, it's like 80% Americans with the big 4x4s trying to move objects with their 4x4s, and it's always hilarious watching the back axle come away, thinking that they can move things with their vehicles.
mountains, that sort of stuff.
Yep. Anyway, moving on. That's hardware for this week. We've run out of time yet again. Moving on to movie news. Okay, so films opening this Friday, and it looks like Statham's back.
Yep, Statham is back with a sequel to The Mechanic called, rather originally, Mechanic Resurrection. Surprising, this one, really, because I didn't think The Mechanic did particularly well, but obviously it made enough money.
I've never heard of it. I genuinely
actually, The
have
Mechanic,
not heard of it.
it was 5-6 years ago, I think, it came out. Remake of a Charles Bronson film, actually, called The Mechanic, where the mechanic is obviously not an actual mechanic who fixes engines. He's a hitman. And that came out. It was released, disappeared. I watched it on Blu-ray, I think, at a friend's house. But clearly, it must have made enough money either probably on secondary sales through Blu-ray and that sort of stuff. But there's been a sequel, and it's Jason Statham and also Jessica Alba. And I personally would see anything Jessica Alba is in, so I'll probably end up watching this at some point or getting it on with it.
Sorry.
I also like Statham too, actually. So
I can quite happily watch almost anything with Jason Statham. The problem for Jason Statham is that the moment he tries to do something where it's less fourth wall knowing silly violence, people sort of go, but that's not the Jason Statham.
Yeah, I think that the last one where he tried that was something about somebody was being bullied. It was supposed to be. I think I managed about 45 minutes of it, and then I thought no. And
there was another one where it was a screen version of Ranulph Fiennes' Feathermen, which was all a bit. Yeah, it was. There were explosions in it, but it wasn't they weren't predominantly generated by Jason Statham. And actually, do you know what? Viewed in isolation, it's not actually a bad film, but it's so against type for him. You're sort of there going, come on, just kill 18 people with a toothbrush or the things that we associate him doing, which I imagine that although that's didn't I haven't seen the original Mechanic. You have, Steve. Did it not kind of miss the point that it was all about assassinations that are supposed to look like accidents, and by and large, it was just a 98-minute long explosion. And I don't know about you, but
well,
very rarely
killing
do
somebody,
things happen like that.
Make it look like an accident, and obviously he cocks one up, and then all hell breaks loose, and he starts kicking ass and taking names, which is all I really want to see him do. But if he's going to be doing that in the Mechanic Resurrection, plus Jessica Alba walking around in very little clothes, I'll go and see it.
Resurrection points to the fact that his character was killed in the last one.
Ambiguous ending to the previous one.
Was it? Right, okay.
It made it look like he might be dead, but then he might be alive. I think that's from memory. I haven't seen it in years, and it wasn't like that memorable to start with.
So not as obvious as Brent Spiner's miraculous comeback in Independence Day.
I love the way they just glossed over that.
I watched it again on UHD recently, and it's so obvious that he's dead.
He's absolutely, definitely dead in the other one. Yeah. His neck's broken, isn't it?
Turn his head round, put him in bed, leave him for 20 years. Jobs are good, and spines grow back. You just leave him for a long time.
Maybe they use the alien tech to save him. I don't know.
Maybe.
Let's be honest. That's the least of film's issues. So.
Yeah. I've got to say though, I thoroughly enjoyed watching that ham fest of the original. I mean, it really was, probably one of the last great summer blockbusters that was just genuinely silly. I mean, that whole speech about it not being just an American holiday.
Yeah, well, as I say, it's an instrumental part of my early teenage years. I loved it. Can't get that. I fully appreciate every single point of its absurdity, but I don't care.
Anyway, so that's Jason Statham coming back to the cinema. What else is there?
And War Dogs, which is based on a true story about two American guys who bidded for a contract with the US military to provide them with weapons, and basically got the bid because they bidded way below everybody else did. I had actually no idea how they were going to do it. It's directed by Todd Phillips, who wrote and directed. He wrote and directed this. He directed the Hangover trilogy. Stars Jonah Hill and Miles Teller, and in the trailers and the clips I've seen, it looks quite funny. Should be a good laugh. Basically, guys running around Iraq and other war zones, getting into trouble and trying to flog iffy stuff they've bought off of what looks like Bradley Cooper selling a lot of it to them as a guy who's on a terrorist watch list and therefore can't deal directly with the US military. But should be good. Should be good. I really enjoyed the first Hangover. The other two not so much. But Todd Phillips has made some funny films in the past, and the cast is good, so it has potential.
And we should have an early review of that.
We will, yes.
Probably about Wednesday that should go up. Mm-hmm. So keep your eyes open on the homepage for that. That review will be going up then. Blu-ray releases. What can, if we're not going to buy Ultra HD Blu-rays, what can we go and buy that's second best?
Well, next week, this week rather, not a lot coming out, but we've got Jane Got a Gun, which is a Western starring Natalie Portman. Had a very troubled production. It was one of those screenplays that was bidded on and was very popular. It made the blacklist, of best unproduced screenplays. Was originally going to be directed by Lynn Ramsey, who made When You Talk About Kevin, which is a really good film. And that sounded like a really interesting idea. Fortunately, she dropped out. Cast got changed. The only person that was cast and stayed with the film was Natalie Portman. Eventually did get made. And according to Kaz, at least I haven't seen it myself, but according to Kaz, it's still a solid film, but obviously it doesn't reach the potential of what it could have been had it perhaps been done by Lynn Ramsey originally. So, but if you like westerns, and it's got a nice, interesting spin on it with a lead performance from Natalie Portman, and a bit like Jessica Alba, I'll watch pretty much anything Natalie Portman's in as well, then that might be worth checking out. But probably the big release this week, and certainly one I'm getting definitely, is The Jungle Book.
The big release not being you sat in front of Natalie Portman.
Possibly that too.
I have no idea what you mean by that, Ed.
No,
I don't want that picture. I don't want that picture in my head, Ed.
What has been seen cannot be unseen.
The Jungle Book is coming out on Blu-ray and 3D Blu-ray, and this is Disney's remake of their their much loved cartoon with Bill Murray doing the voice of Baloo the Bear. And I haven't seen the film yet, but I saw a clip of it in Dolby Vision at Dolby's screening room in Soho Square, and I've got to say it looked absolutely stunning. Sadly, it's Disney, so there's no news on any kind of Ultra HD Blu-ray release, but I reckon just the 3D Blu-ray alone will look amazing. This is one of those films where, I mean, predominantly it's shot, but they just shot the kid. Mowgli is shot with 3D cameras. Obviously, the rest of it's CG animated. Almost everything in it is CG animated, but it looks totally photoreal. It looks absolutely sumptuous, and apparently there's a sequence in the film where Baloo the bear and Mowgli basically are tripping on something, and in the Dolby Vision version that they did for the cinema, they actually wind out the color space for that sequence to give it a bit more of a psychedelic effect. So that's one of the first films. There've been a couple others where they've done this as well. Inside Out did it as well, where they're starting to experiment with widening out color spaces, color gamuts, in order to, outside of DCI-P3, where it's possible, like with a Dolby Vision presentation at the cinema, in order to enhance the creative process. So that's interesting as well.
But that's the only place you're going to see it. It'd have to be on a projector.
It has to be with a projector that can deliver a wider color space. So it's
they,
obviously limited.
There ain't many of them around. So
interesting anyway that they were experimenting in that sense, and I think it should be interesting. Does
it have the songs?
It does have songs to a degree. It's not as musical as the original cartoon, but the songs are there. It's made over 900 million at the box office. It's been very well received, and I personally am really looking forward to this one.
Well, see, childhood memories, bare necessities, and I want to be like you, and all the rest. That's where it is for me.
You can't enjoy that anymore.
I mean, it's like
massively racist.
Really?
Sorry.
Early jazz, it was pioneering.
I don't understand why that's considered to be racist. The King Louis is played by Louis Prima, and
because
he's a jazz singer.
If it was enjoyable.
Get over yourselves, and this whole society at the minute, anybody will complain about anything. It's getting ridiculous. It absolutely
Offendertrons.
Yeah, totally. I mean, this sense of entitlement, get with it, people. You know what I mean? Anyway, Jungle Book. So it has got some of the songs in there. You think, Steve?
Yeah, and it's got a great voice cast too. Not just Bill Murray, but Idris Elba, who's playing Shere Khan, and Ben Kingsley, who is Bigora. Hang on. Did you say that? Bigara? Not Bigara. Hang on. What's the Black Panther? Bagheera. Thank you. Yes. Bigara.
Yeah, that's the Irish.
Bagheera is Scarlett Johansson, I think, is Car. Is it?
God, she's getting everywhere at the minute. Voice.
Again, no.
Behave yourself, man.
Natalie Portman, Jessica Alba, and Scarlett Johansson in the same film. I might explain.
She's never been prettier than she was in Lost in Translation.
Yeah, she's cute in that.
That film bored the arse off.
Oh, shut up, Ed.
No, I love that film, partly because I saw it after I'd been living in Tokyo for about 2 months, and I could absolutely
You never lived in Tokyo, did you?
You haven't mentioned that for years.
You haven't mentioned that, Steve. Next you'll be telling us you lived in Hong Kong.
No, but I'm just saying that the film experiences he's going through were exactly what I was going through at the time. So
yeah, I don't think it specifically has to be because you're in Japan or anywhere else.
Yeah,
I think a lot of it's being lost, no matter where you are, and it really is. I think if you see it from that point of view, I don't think it's a bore fest. I really loved the film. Thought it was great. Maybe I'm just lonely.
So those are our Blu-rays for this.
This brings an interesting point. So we've got the Jungle Book's been redone. Peach Dragon's been redone. Now Peach Dragon for me is always about the dungarees, 70s dungarees.
Oh yeah.
So I just couldn't.
They're going in that direction with the remake, by the way, Phil. I don't think they're going in that direction.
No, but you see, that was the thing. That was the first thing I noticed in the trailer was lack of dungarees.
They've also remade Beauty and the Beast with Emma Watson as the Beauty, which seems strange. No offense to Emma Watson, but she's not that pretty.
She's a bloody awful actress.
She's a bloody terrible actress.
Isn't she?
Again, no, I'm sure she's a lovely person, but she is no shades as an actress. She was shocking.
She was in a film recently that was sort of at the Danny Dyer levels of
The Colony.
taking.
Made like £60 its opening weekend.
Yeah, but at least Danny Dyer's got a bit of class about him when it comes to that. I mean, he knows
Danny
his shit.
Dyer is all class. Can we be clear about this? And I'm sorry, whilst Huddleston might have landed the Bond gig this time round, there is still scope for Danny Dyer, secret agent.
Yeah.
Or
we're going to have to find this interview that I did years ago. I mean, it's on one of the original podcasts, but I haven't got the time to go through it, but it is there. And literally, the beat machine was starting to smoke by the time we got to the end of it because it was just swearing all the way through. Guy couldn't help himself. Brilliant. Really good. Really funny. Time for Star Wars news, or is there Ultra HD news, Steve?
There's been a couple of announcements in terms of Ultra HD Blu-rays coming out in the near future. Interestingly, because it only opened in the cinema last
Did they not just send you a letter now and just say, Steve, what do you want?
But they just send them to me now and bill my credit card. They don't even ask me what I want. Yes, The Shallows. This is obviously a US release date because it did come out earlier in the States. But that's coming out on Ultra HD Blu-ray on 27th of September. So it's in a month's time in the States. You can get that one already. Central Intelligence, which is the new comedy with The Rock. The Rock in Ultra HD and HDR. Come on, how good is that? 27th of September as well. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows comes out on 20th of September. And then it looks as though Warners are lining up some stuff for the 4th of October. Pacific Rim, Jupiter Ascending, and The Great Gatsby.
Oh, I mean, a lot of these titles are absolute classic films, Steve. I mean, you know,
Yes.
the level of film excellence.
Well, hang on, I'm not finished. So on the 18th of October, Sony are releasing Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. So there you go. It's a good film.
This happens with every new format, isn't it? It's always a case of, right, we've got to release a new format. We'll put a couple of big discounts, but this is a good time to get all our crud out there because people will buy anything to have it in the latest format. And
There's
the
two
latest
things that happen. They release all the crud first on the new format, and they squeeze every last penny out of the old format. To which Warner Brothers and their ultimate box set of the Middle-earth films, all 6 films, $800. Stuff it up your ass for nothing, you lot. There's nothing new on it in terms of content. Thank God, as I'd have to buy it. They were going to put it in. They had to put it in a little.
That little throwaway sentence tells you everything you need to know. You know.
They put it in a little bookshelf and put some little bits and bobs in there, you know, and they're charging $800 for it. It's like, sod off.
I mean, I have to say that makes some of the activities in analog look pretty price sensible at the moment. I mean, there's a Placebo box set coming out for 70 quid, but
That's
on the very least, it does have every great track they've ever done, and loads and a really big, like, nice photo book that comes with it. I'm quite tempted. Not least, I don't own a lot of Placebo stuff on vinyl, so.
Okay, Star Wars news. Let's have that because we're running short of time. I've now watched that trailer probably about 20 times, Steve, and each time I watch it, I see something new. Something new pops out, and
Did you watch the international trailer? That
yes,
came
I
out
did,
just
and
afterwards?
I have a fear now.
There are actually little snippets in there as well, isn't there?
Yeah, I have a fear
Specifically a reference to a coded message from her father, which is interesting.
now. Yeah, I've got a bad feeling about this. I think we're building it up too much.
Obviously. That's a given, isn't it? It's not like it's going to cure cancer. It's just a film.
I know, but I'm getting flashbacks now. It's too much. It's getting too exciting. I think it. You know, there's a lot. There's a new hope that this could be really good, but
If it just delivers in terms of, you know, a nice action-packed romp in the universe just before the original Star Wars and that kind of time frame, I'll be happy. You know,
Yeah.
I'm easily pleased.
I watched the Star Wars show the other day, which was quite amusing because they had the trailer running with people's reactions as they watched the trailer for the first time.
Yeah,
and
that was really good.
that was really quite amusing watching people's reactions to that, especially when
Actually,
Vader
right at the
popped
very
up.
end when Darth Vader
Yeah,
pops up,
yeah.
like, "Ah!"
Everybody screamed. It was hilarious. You know, guys in their 50s and they're acting like teenagers. It's really quite funny. So moving on, they've begun to edit episode 8. Only got a year to get this right, so it's not like they're giving themselves plenty of time.
It seems kind of tight, actually, because they've just finished shooting a couple of weeks ago, and obviously they began editing now. They have to edit this together pretty quickly because obviously they can't really start a lot of the effects work till they have some kind of idea of what they need to film or what they need to create in terms of effects.
That'll all have been done in Animax.
Previs a lot of it. won't they?
Previs, so that'll all be taken care of. So yeah, I don't think I think a year's more than enough time.
But what it does mean is I think we're pretty safe. I think I can safely say we'll get a teaser trailer before.
I think that's a nailed-on guarantee that there has to be a teaser before that. And as soon as the midnight opening opens up, I will be booking that for Rogue One.
Yeah, me too.
I'll probably stagger along at some point.
But it's your birthday, Ed.
Well, yeah, I mean, they do seem very considerate in that regard, but, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you're such a lucky guy. You get a new Star Wars film every birthday for the next few years to come.
This is true. I mean, it almost goes some way to compensating for the fact of people going, oh, well, as your birthday and Christmas are only a week apart, we just bought you one present.
Yeah, that must have been a right bummer when you were a kid.
Well, it's a blessing and a curse. There are, from when you're dealing with actual members of your family, my parents especially, if I did want 2 separate presents, they were always brilliant. They always humoured me on that one. But equally, it did mean that I got some combined gifts that were of a sort of value and a quality that many of them I still have. So it's not all bad. And also, let's face it, I don't know any different. It's the only birthday I've ever had. So unless I become queen, whereupon I can get 2 birthdays.
Two.
It's a bit of a moot point, really. And knowing me, if I became monarch, I'd then get crowned on December the 17th. So I just end up with three birthdays 8 days apart.
Yeah. All right. So one of the UHDs coming out. It's actually at the cinema at the minute. I just haven't managed to get out and use my Limitless card this week. So a bit of a failed this week when the podcast chance to see at least one film. I was going to go and see The Shallows, which is the latest shark film, and it's been getting mixed reviews. Actually, I've seen some good reviews. I've seen some pretty awful reviews for it. Have you been able to see it yet, Steve?
I have not, but it was well received by Sharina when she did the review last week for us. And I'm quite partial to a shark movie, so I would like to see it. I'll probably, given that it's only a month's time, at this point, I probably won't bother going to cinema. I'll just get the Ultra HD Blu-ray at the end of next month instead. But the fact that I like a shark-based movie is evident by the fact I went through my entire Blu-ray collection and was surprised to discover there were an awful lot of shark films in there.
Is there really? Because
I've
been trying to rack my brains, and apart from the obvious choices, which are obviously the Jaws films, and then you got Deep Blue Sea, and I'm struggling after that.
Well, I had Jaws,
Sharknado.
Oh yeah, you get Sharknadoes. Yeah.
Why do they not count? They're modern masterpieces.
Wow.
Yeah, Sharknadoes. It's got a shark and a tornado. What else do you need?
Well, if you're really up for that, you've got Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus.
Yeah,
and
I saw
various
clips.
forms of Mega Sharks versus increasingly unlikely objects.
Yeah, I seen the one with Megalodon against whatever it was on the Sci-Fi Channel. That looked shit. But again, it's a shark film. I mean, I'd really enjoy Shark Week, which is on Discovery.
You see, I can't get excited about that at all.
Which I really like. And I like the series Shark Men, where they actually went and caught massive great white sharks and tagged them and all the rest. And they actually lift them out of the water on a specially built platform on the side of a boat. And it was really quite interesting how they caught them and then tagged them. Yeah, but when you actually see a female great white out of the water next to someone standing next to it, and you see the size of these things and the girth. It's the girth. It's not the length. It's the girth.
Taken out of context.
A word rarely used to describe anything other than a penis.
I really didn't realise what I was saying there.
That's how carried away you got with it.
At least you got your tagline for that podcast.
Many years ago, one of the very first holidays I did out to Ireland with my wife's family, because it was the first time I'd been to the Donegal Bay area, I went out in a sort of boat tour, and there was a basking shark. Basking. Yeah. Now, obviously, before anyone points it out, basking sharks are in no way, shape, or form dangerous. I mean, unless one falls on you.
Plankton.
Yes, unless one falls on you, it's not going to do anything.
Yeah, that would definitely.
But my word,
Well, it's his second biggest fish in the sea after the whale shark.
it is a big ass fish.
Since we're doing going off at a slight tangent here in terms of experiences with actual sharks, I was diving. No, I was in Thailand. I was on holiday in Thailand actually, but I was diving, and I went down and we were diving and swimming along on the bottom of the ocean, just looking around at the fish and I'm enjoying myself. And this shadow went over me, and I assumed it was the boat following us. So I looked up, and there was a 30-meter whale shark over me, right? But I didn't know it was a whale shark. All I saw was the biggest shark I'd ever seen in my life, and all I could hear in my head was dum, 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 dum. And I was starting to think, shit, where am I going to go? And then I saw everyone swimming towards it. I thought, well, it can't be that dangerous then.
I'm impressed that
that was massively impressive. I mean, it was incredible being that close to a fish that big. And when we got out of the boat, there was a guy who had been diving in that area for about 10 years, and he was going to dive us, but he had suddenly overheated and just couldn't do the dive. And when we told him what we'd seen, he'd never seen a whale shark in 10 years of diving, and it was my first dive in that area, and he was gutted. But that was massively impressive. So yeah.
I thought I was a basking shark. I always thought it's a contentious second place because there are some examples of the ocean sunfish, nature's most bizarre-looking design in the fish world. I thought they were in with a shout of being the second largest bony fish.
No, it is officially it's the whale shark and then the basking shark. As far as I'm
Ocean
aware.
sunfish, absolutely brilliant. That was clear. If there is intelligent design, the ocean sunfish is a clear indicator that they drink and they have hangovers, because fundamentally that's not a happy looking creature, but they're great. I love them. They're just
That nicely takes us full circle, Ed, because isn't that one of the jokes in Time Man, is that God created all the big stuff and the dwarves created all the little stuff like trees and plants, and they invented the pink bungadoo, which was like a 50-foot tall, stank horribly and was bright pink, and they got sacked.
So yes, maybe they did the ocean sunfish as well whilst nobody was looking.
Yeah.
Okay, to get this back
sharks.
onto sharks and onto some kind of relevance, Steve, give us the shark movies in that we're missing, because we've got Deep Blue Sea, the Jaws films, Sharknadoes. What else is there?
Well, yes. Interesting. There is a common fact here, which is they were all in 3D, which may be the reason why I bought them in the first place. But I've also got Bait, which is quite a fun Aussie film where there's a flood and a shark gets washed inside a supermarket. So the supermarket's flooded. There are sharks in the supermarket, and then people I think the tagline was something like "clean up in aisle 3," and they're trapped inside the supermarket trying to get out with the sharks swimming around. I mean, it sounds dumb, and it is, but actually really good fun.
I love gritty,
also,
realistic cinema.
And I've also got Shark Night. The clue is in the title there, I think. Again, 3D with a bunch of people, a bunch of teenagers on holiday.
Steve, these sound rubbish. Come on,
You're simply listing stuff with sharks in, not great.
Anyone could have Googled shark movies.
I know, but I own them. I've watched them once. I personally really, really like Deep Blue Sea. I think that's great fun.
I did that. The whole Samuel L. thing's just hilarious. I think that's brilliant. Really. And the way that they try and play it seriously as well, and it's so tongue-in-cheek. It's just spot on. Really,
it's just
really.
When he starts doing his, that moment in the film where you have the guy says, right, we're all going to get together in that big motivational speech. We're going to beat these sharks, and then something very funny, very, very funny, unexpected happens. Which, if you watch the commentary track, it's the director, Rennie Harlin, and Samuel L. Jackson. And when we get to that point, Samuel L. Jackson goes, well, that's me done. Thank you very much, and walks out of the room. Stops his commentary. Okay, I'm done. I'm off. Thanks
it's a shame that role wasn't played by Arnie, though, because can you imagine how excited he would get in the commentary if that happened to him? Because as we've discussed in the past, any commentary involving Arnold Schwarzenegger commentating on himself is just art. It's if you've not enjoyed that and you've got an Arnie film lying around on DVD or Blu-ray with an Arnie commentary, get on it as soon as you can. You will not regret it.
Well, we just had the other Jaws films recently released on Blu-ray. You can pick them all up. I think there's a triple disc set available. You can buy them separately, or you can get the triple disc set. Triple disc set's about £15. The others are about £8 each, as far as I'm aware, where I've seen them. Jaws 2. I thought Jaws 2 was okay. I didn't think it was a terrible film. It was all right. It was set in the same locations, roughly the same actors and so on. So where it went silly was 3 and 4. And I think it was the first time you've seen 3 recently, Steve.
Never seen 3 before. I watched it in, again, 3D. Bought the 3D disc and watched it last week, actually. What a crap film. It's really, really bad.
It was.
Isn't that the Michael Caine house quote?
No, that's 4.
That's the one after.
That's 4.
Oh, my word.
3 is the one that's set at SeaWorld.
It doesn't even have good 3D. It's a bizarre thing. A lot of it's, a lot of the effects.
They showed that on ITV or BBC and did the anaglyph glasses.
That's right, yeah. I think
from the radio times, the TV times, and put it on a Sunday afternoon. Much to the disappointment of the whole nation. It was shocking.
Yeah, but I mean, even watching the 2D, you can see which shots were done in 3D to really stick out. And
there's lots of poking you in the eye throughout the entire. I mean, it's the kind of, you understand when you watch that what people mean by gimmicky 3D. Oh boy, they weren't kidding. It was not being used as an artistic medium at all. And it's not even a good film or a good story.
Yeah,
And, Dennis Quaid's first major role.
I mean, how do unrelated sharks go after the same family and know where the family are, where the family move around, and you know what I mean?
Not whales,
it's even before Facebook.
I know. Yeah, it's like geocaching and all that kind of thing. I mean, how did they know that the 2 sons were going to be at that water park, and it just so happened that the shark was there as well? And then 4's even sillier. That the shark turns up in New Jersey and then goes to the Caribbean to track the mum down to get the last member of the family. But Michael Caine's there to save her.
It's not
get
strictly
himself a very nice house in the process.
Yeah, that was why he did it, wasn't it? Holiday in the Caribbean and a new pool for his house or something like that. Was his rationale. It's not really a shark film per se, but I do think the shark attack, more to the point, the effects of the after attack in the beach are quite shocking, where the guy's had his leg bitten apart.
Yeah, that's quite
really
realistic.
quite grim.
And there was the one with the two divers, and it was based on a true story. Open water, yeah. That was well done. That could have gone quite silly, but actually that was really quite well done.
Except it's a bit like The Perfect Storm, which based on a true story. Yeah, but everyone in it dies.
Yeah,
so how do they know?
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of dramatic license taken there, but you forgive it for that. It was decent.
It's certainly quite scary if you're a diver, because the way they accidentally get left behind, you could see that. I mean, they do check het numbers and everything, and it probably wouldn't happen very often. Very rare that would happen. But the idea of being abandoned.
Well, it's based on a true story, Steve. So
well, yeah, I know someone
it
did
has
happen.
happened.
It could happen.
Yeah.
Very. I mean, really, really negligent dive masters, but. The idea of being abandoned like that in the middle of the ocean, scary, because it's not like anyone's going to come past any time.
No,
you are basically buggered.
Yeah. So that's it. I guess the daddy of all shark movies is Jaws, and the thing about that is that it's not about the shark, and that's why Jaws was such a seminal film. It was because of the hand that Spielberg was dealt, which was that the shark didn't work. He had to shoot everything but the shark, and it became a story of the three main leads and how they were dealing with the situation and all the rest. It was never about the shark. And I think if the shark had worked, it would have been a completely different story. It would have been a completely different film, and it wouldn't have been the classic that it is now, because you just have to look at Jaws 2 to see where, if the shark worked, that's the way that film would have gone.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, Jaws is a masterpiece. It's one of the greatest films ever made. And, the fact there's a shark in it as well is incidental.
Have you seen it yet, Ed?
Which film's this? Jaws?
Jaws.
No, it's on the to-do list, mate.
Well, it should be on your done list as soon as possible.
Get off.
So, if you think that Ed should watch Jaws, sign the petition in the podcast forum underneath this podcast, telling Ed to get a move on and watch the most seminal film on the planet. And on that bombshell, that's it for this week. My thanks to Steve Withers.
That was no man. That was a supreme being.
Mark Hodgkinson.
Stand by for mind control.
And Ed Selley.
You never know until you've eaten it.
Don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook, bookmark AVForums for latest reviews, news and video, and of course leave us those 5-star ratings. It is next week. You have to leave us a humorous comment as well, or just say we're great and we'll read it out, because if we think we're great, we'll love you forever. So just tell us how good we are and give us those 5 stars, and that's next week. So I'm Phil Hinton, thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you again next Monday.